On this episode of ResiWeek, the Nest company has a brand new camera. The Nortek buyout has attracted the lawyers, plus a new freshman class at ProSource. All that and more, next on ResiWeek.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is ResiWeek, episode 24, recorded Monday, July 18th, 2016. DIY Unplugged. ResiWeek is brought to you by our fine group of underwriters, companies like Infocom International.
Welcome to ResiWeek. This is your weekly wrap-up. Wow, it's already been a long week. Let's kick that one more time. 3, 2, welcome to ResiWeek. This is your weekly wrap-up of all the latest news and stories for the residential AV industry. I'm your host, Matt D. Scott, for AVNation.tv. Today, I am joined by some of my favorite people in the whole wide world. We have, first off, Terry, the external communications specialist from Draper. Terry, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm great, Matt. How about yourself?
I'm doing good.
Thanks for that awesome build-up, so
Wasn't
that
it big?
now I can disappoint everybody.
No. You'll be fine. And we got our next guest to help out with that. Not the disappointing part. Next, he really doesn't need an introduction. It is Uncle Richie, Richard Fregosa, the principal and founder of Fregosa Design. How are you doing this morning, my friend?
Good. Mellow West Coast greetings. Dealing with a couple of tweens and a 6-year-old sleeping off a cake and bounce house hangover. So we've got kids strewn all over the place for this podcast.
That's the key. I love it. And last and certainly not least, my good friend Ted Green, the editor of Strategy.com. Ted, how are you doing today?
Super good for a Monday. Not too bad at all. Heating up here in the summer, heating up here on ResiWeek.
I love it. All right, gentlemen. Rich, just before we jump into the stories, you had a colleague or a gentleman that you knew in the industry that passed on. Let's just kick it off with that real quick.
Yeah, no, not to be a downer, but I just last week, John Trimbeck, who his last position was at Russ Sound as one of their sales managers. But prior to that, I knew him at his time at Autonomic and some of his other ventures before that. He passed away last week. Great industry guy. Was just instrumental in helping a lot of people in the industry. Well respected and a friend, and just saddened by the loss of somebody in the industry who really enjoyed having around, and anybody who knew him had nothing but good words to say about John. So just wanted to get that out there.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. All right, let's jump right in, gentlemen. This is something that comes to us from Ted. Ted, thanks for being on top of this stuff. It's been fantastic. I'm going to share it real quick. It's about Nortek and their being acquired that we talked about over the last week or two. And guess what? It's my favorite people in the world. Here comes the lawyers. Ted, since you wrote this, why don't you jump in and just give us a quick overview of what this means? Because again, we kind of forget that with companies such as Nortek, you can't just buy them. There's other parties involved, and there's a lot of shareholders involved. So can you just give us a quick overview on that?
Yeah, I think that what was interesting about this particular story is it's not uncommon when there's a big deal that goes down that's a publicly traded company that attorneys who specialize in shareholder rights will step in and announce an investigation. That part's not unusual. What is unusual in this case is the number of attorneys that came out with the announcement. And usually it's 1 or 2 or 3 firms announce. In this case, I gave a whole list. What is
8.
it?
There's 8 there.
That was the number who announced in one day. Last Wednesday, that is the number of law firms that announced that they were going to investigate this deal. So that caught my attention. That's a little bit of an unusual scenario. Who knows where it'll go? Maybe they'll find nothing. Maybe it'll go nowhere, or maybe they'll find something. I can tell you that, if I found out that there were 8 law firms investigating my company, that's not something I would be very happy about. The other part of that story is this is actually a twofer, this story. I also was able to find an interesting article that appeared over in the UK, more from the Melrose side of the story. Melrose Industries PLC is the acquirer of Nortek, and it talked a little bit more about what Melrose intended to do as far as restructuring Nortek. That information, we haven't seen too much of that over here in the U.S., so it was kind of a, like I said, a twofer story. Interesting. Nortek, is I think one of the fascinating stories in our industry. Nortek is the parent company of Core Brands. Core Brands currently has something like 10 or 12 brands, some of whom at one time were absolutely anchor brands for the custom integration industry. Whenever there's a scenario like this where there's an acquisition, it's always it's unclear where it's going to go. The buyer bought a lot, paid a lot of money to buy this company, and he's going to have his ideas about where to go with it and what to do with it. In this case, Melrose Industries PLC is actually a financial company. It's a financial company that specializes in purchasing troubled industrial companies, fixing what's ever wrong with them, and then turning it around and selling it. In real estate, we call this flipping. You slap some paint on and put fresh carpeting down and turn around and sell it and make a profit. And so that's what Melrose is doing here. So
and that was something that we talked about when we first heard the news and got that story from your firm there. Richard, when you see this much legal action involved in something, does this, as an integrator, does this give you some cause to maybe pause and I don't know, just evaluate who your suppliers are, knowing that there may be an issue with one of them that's a Nortek brand?
I think if you asked me that question 20 years ago, I would have said yes. And in all honesty, from the CI standpoint, you were dealing with independent companies. I mean, if you take a look at kind of the portfolio of the core brands, I mean, you've got Elan, Speakercraft, Niles, Panamax, Sunfire, Proficient, Xantec. I mean, these it was exactly like Ted was saying. These were cornerstone independent companies that fueled the industry that we have now when we were in our infancy. And now that we're in our adolescence, and I would say we're post-adolescence at this point as an industry and maturing, we're seeing what happens pretty much in every other industry. There is a consolidation. There is more focus on the fiduciary aspects of running these businesses than the old rock and roll, let's get the band together and if somebody doesn't make a product, let's invent it ourselves and maybe there's a market for it. I think that with the potential for this acquisition, but you're seeing it. Everybody's on a buying spree. Everybody's consolidating. I mean, it's in the news right now in terms of the industry, and this is just another indicator that from a vendor standpoint of who you're working with, I think that's a business proposition, really. Who are the ones that you take the field with? As a smaller integrator, do you stay with the companies that you have a strong relationship with? You may not necessarily get the benefits of, the price benefits of something that's a little bit more boutique. The flip side is that you can deal with this, and it's almost the Google approach. They buy all of these companies, they give them a shot for a year, and then a year later they issue a press release going, oh, yeah, those guys, they're not around anymore.
They didn't work out.
It didn't work out. And so that is, like Ted was saying just a second ago, that is, if it is a turnaround company, that's what they do. It's purely Darwinian. It's like only the strongest are going to survive, and everybody else is going to be left to go. So I would keep an eye on it as an integrator. I think that always goes back to your business model. Who is going to be there? Who can you support? Are you looking for a cost-effective kind of short-term sale, or are you looking for something over the long term in terms of the partnership with the vendor? And when the vendor is being handled by primarily being controlled by a comp controller or somebody who's handling just the bean counting side of things. Mm-hmm. That and custom don't necessarily go together.
Right.
So that's kind of always what I look at.
Yeah, very good. Terry, when you're looking at this, being a manufacturer, is acquisitions like this, is this something that if it's not kind of, let's say, in your wheelhouse as far as projection screens or something like that with Draper, is it something that you guys as manufacturers watch or keep an eye on beyond just general interest? Or is it something that you kind of follow as, say, an acquisition trend within the industry?
We want to pay attention to our industry and not just in our own general areas, projection screens, lifts, that kind of thing, because we work closely with our dealers and with integrators, and we want to know what's going on with their business, we're all part of making their business a healthy enterprise and successful. So from that standpoint, yes, we're very interested in keeping up with all this stuff. It's interesting for us to view all of these acquisitions going on because we've done a bit of that in the past,
right.
But not particularly in the AV industry all that much. But it's something where it almost looks like a foreign concept because that's never going to be us. We're never going to be putting our famous last words, but we're not going to be. You're not going to be reading next week that somebody has purchased Draper Inc.
Right.
But from the standpoint of in the past when we have looked at that, it's always been something that helps us provide something else for our dealers that would be of a similar or into a similar space and help them round out their offerings a little bit better and help us round out our offerings a little bit better. But I see, and it's interesting, and I think in this particular case that you've been talking about, I'm not really sure what to make of the attorneys coming in and all of that, but it'll be interesting to see. And I think that in a case like this company, they're such they have such a variety of things going on and brands that I think that I think they'll come out of this okay.
Yeah, very, very good. So we were talking about this kind of just before we jumped in on air, and Terry, I'm going to stick with you for a second. Google announced, or officially Nest announced today, not today, this week, this comes to us from Twice, that they are rolling out a new camera. This is their new outdoor cam to go along with their other indoor cam. It's slated for availability in the fall. It's going to have the same retail price as the indoor camera, and it's also going to have some new alerts that are going to work with its Nest Aware cloud storage subscription service, with people alerts and other things like that that are allowing it to distinguish different objects. Is this something that is this just another extension of the Google approach and the DIY approach, making more and more inroads into the custom integration channel, or is this something that integrators should kind of embrace? Terry, I know when we kind of talked off air about it, you were a little excited about it. How is this going to change, if at all, the outdoor surveillance market?
Well, I'm not sure about that. From a personal standpoint, I found it interesting, not at all for what it's being marketed as. So I may not be the best person to.
Well, that's why I wanted to start with you, because it's.
I like it because. Well, you pointed out it has a power cord, so what kind of security camera do you want hanging outside with something that somebody could easily, perhaps, snip or easily put out of action? I don't know about that, but I liked the idea because it's a simple approach to something like keeping an eye on birds and wildlife that are in our yard. We have a pretty good sized yard here in Indiana. We have a lot of stuff going on outside at night that makes the dogs go crazy, and we would just like to be able to see sometimes what happens. And this might be one of those solutions that would help. And you can get this stuff in other places, and where, I'm not an integrator, but maybe this could be an in for who wouldn't normally consider. They would just consider going to the store, but getting something. But maybe if this is something that an integrator could use as a door opener, maybe with some people who might not otherwise consider it, might. And I could be wrong. I'd love to hear what Rich especially would have to say about that.
Yeah, that's why we're going to jump over him for a second and go to Ted.
I meant Ted.
Yeah, no, you're fine.
Oh no,
Ted, is this just more of the same of the DIY market expanding?
I think this was a disappointing product from Nest. Disappointing. Really? Yeah, I think so. I mean,
hearing that.
We look to Nest to be the leader in IoT, right? Mm-hmm. We look to Nest, founded by an ex-Apple executive,
Tony
Fadell, to be a every product they introduce to be just a something that inspires a whole new class of products. So, and what did they come out with? This is their first new product in a year. And what did they come out with? They came out with a weatherized version of the Nest Cam, which they got when they bought Dropcam in 2014. So it is, it's an incremental product. It's not an earth-shattering new product. They came up with the idea. They
Should
said,
they have thrown an S on the end of this one?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's the first new product from them in a year. It's the first new product since the exit of Tony Fadell. There's been lots of rumors of problems over at Alphabet, lots of rumors of problems at Nest, and so it's kind of it's an interesting little product, and they got a neat little app to go with it, and it's weatherized. You can put it outdoors. How well it works, we don't know yet. Price is okay, but it's just another product. I was expecting more from Nest. I don't know. I think look, companies like Google, Apple, there's a lot of expectation. The last Apple WWDC was kind of a yawner. I mean, there was just nothing exciting there. I don't know if you did a show on that or not, but nothing really.
Well, that's my question, though. Are we expecting too much from these firms?
Well, I mean, I think that is...
how much innovation can really go into an outdoor camera? Other than maybe, I don't know, PoE and maybe not a power cord?
Well, maybe what, so number one, so expectations are a real issue, and companies need to consider that when they're doing incremental announcements or when they're doing major announcements. An announcement like this, to me, in my mind, as a marketing guy, just raises a whole lot of questions about where are they going. There's no context to this. It's an incremental advance over their indoor Nest Cam, but we get a big announcement. It comes out a year later, and so to me it raises more questions than it answers. Well, it's possible we're being unrealistic, but like Terry, I used to be a manufacturer, and I was on the other side of that. And our dealers expected real innovation from us and real movement forward, and not just incremental products. So we worked very hard to deliver that. It's not easy, but you work hard to deliver that. In this case, this is Nest, this is Alphabet, this was Tony Fadell. So there's a lot of expectation. I don't know that this product lived up to it.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you. Richard, Uncle Richie, as our resident integrator here today, what is this hit? What does this miss? Is this something integrators should just ignore?
No, the opposite. I think it's great for a simple reason. I love competition. Competition forces innovation. And when somebody comes out with a product that isn't quite what it should be, it's doing a couple of things, though, and especially with Nest and with Alphabet, is that it is opening up a market. It is causing a conversation. It is creating a user base that may not have been there before, who it's like anything else. It's how integration works in the first place. Somebody gets an idea, somebody gets a product, and it may be a do-it-yourself product, and then the question invariably becomes, is there more? What can we do? So potential client A goes down to Best Buy or orders it off of the internet or off of Amazon, gets the unit in, and all of a sudden they open up the box and they go, oh, I have to plug this into the wall. I can guarantee that over half of the people who buy this aren't going to read the fact that the thing plugs into the wall somewhere. It's going to need electricity.
Yeah.
So now you have somebody who likes the premise of it, and I mean, especially here on the West Coast, and I mean, if you look in the news, it's surveillance systems and personal surveillance systems and site protection is becoming something that doesn't require a huge estate and a gated community and a guard shack. This is something where somebody realistically could have 2 or 3 simple. I mean, you can go to Costco, for goodness sakes, and get like an 8-pack of them. I mean, it's like you can get a pallet of toilet paper and 8 cameras to go. I mean, that's they're becoming as ubiquitous as that at this point. But what's happening is that people are running across the point where they're finding out that the technology doesn't meet the convenience that they were looking for. It's a perfect opening point for an integrator to come in and say, hey, look, this is what you're looking for. There are other manufacturers than Nest. Nest provides it lowers the pain threshold, right, in terms of a setup standpoint. Is it a perfect product? Is it a professional product? No, it's neither. But it is a product that started the conversation. And then at that point, if somebody decides that, I can't get power to that, okay, well, great. There are some, PoE solutions. Well, that won't even work. There are even companies who provide battery solutions. There are Wi-Fi solutions. There's all of these solutions that become available, and it allows for an integrator to come in and be a technologist. I am here to solve your technology problem. And for me, that's always the message that I'm pushing through with the integrators that I work with, is that you are a technology advisor. You're not a camera guy. You're not a stereo guy. You're not a touch panel guy. You're a technology guy. And it is your responsibility to come in, advise, counsel, and set those expectations. That's how you build a business long term. And so you have to look at products like this as an opportunity. And if you're not looking at it as an opportunity, then you might want to try a different business model.
Now, is this something where, integrators should look at using this as marketing as well?
Oh, heck
and
yeah.
not just sit back and say, hey, if someone comes to me and says, oh, by the way, I bought this Nest and it's a piece of junk and it doesn't do what I need it to do, is it something like, should an integrator maybe be so bold as to say, hey, have you seen all these great new products? They may not work. We can help you do better.
Absolutely. I mean, I've seen a couple of integrators who've been really successful with their Facebook pages, of all things, where it's like, did you buy this? Were you expecting this? Check with us for an actual solution. And you can do it in a way not to disparage the product or disparage the client, but to say, this is probably what you were looking for. Didn't meet expectations, gentlemen, countrymen, lend me your nests, and bring it in.
Matt, if I can jump in real quick.
Yeah.
A lot of people look to Tony Fadell and Nest as the company that was going to drive mass market adoption of IoT products. They seem to be, products. Not just a couple of years ago. Tony Fadell was a keynote speaker at CEDIA Expo, and there was a lot of excitement over what that was. Nest was just rolling out, was just reaching out to our community, and there was a lot of excitement about where he was going and what he was doing, and this is what they brought us. It feels like not only are they not leading us into mass market adoption of IoT products, but they've kind of shifted us all into neutral, and we're just kind of spinning our wheels. So we're waiting. So now we're waiting again for the next big innovation out of Nest or anybody to start driving the mass market adoption of smart home products or IoT. So,
and that raises a really good point. Is this not the, dare I say, the perfect example of large market companies thinking they're going to just jump in and change the smart home system. And, we've talked about it on the show and AV Week for quite a long time that until we get that all-in-one solution and that standard that allows that to, every manufacturer to come out and do something, I don't think we're going to see a true smart home system. Like, everyone will have their own little individual pieces, but it's not that whole IoT dream of just plugging something in and having their entire house all work and play together. I still don't see it. But I think we could debate that point for months and days and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there's a huge industry debate about that. The keynote speaker at CES last year was the CEO of Samsung, and his whole keynote speech was on how IoT was going to revolutionize the industry. And I think we all saw his vision.
Samsung's IoT.
Yeah, well, he was.
It wasn't all-encompassing. It was Samsung's ecosystem.
Well, he was proposing it as what was going to happen to the industry, but yes, you're correct. He obviously had Samsung's viewpoint, and but nonetheless, that's a huge company, and it is a huge challenge that he laid out there, and the momentum just seems to have stalled. So maybe that's the nature of the beast, but it just hasn't seemed to shift into gear yet. So
very good.
This announcement from Nest really didn't move the ball down the field.
No, I don't think so. Let's move on real quick and take a look at this article over from Residential Systems. This is about Savant and how they're now shipping their direct-to-consumer remote control. This is a big, huge departure for Savant. I would have to say, in providing a universal remote that A, sells directly to consumers, and B, sells directly to consumers. They have always been, one of those firms that really caters to the higher end side of the market, and this is just a gigantic departure for them from that. Is this something that, Richard, I'm going to start off with you. Is this something that you see other firms continuing to do? And is this something that you think is going to, how is this going to affect Savant?
It's with Savant. Really the remote was brilliant for a simple reason. If they didn't come out with one, someone else will. And it likely wouldn't be from our industry. I think where we sometimes suffer from a significant amount of hubris in our industry is that we seem to keep thinking that we are the ones who are pushing the envelope. The rest of the technology world is zooming by us. Savant is looking at it and saying, there's a whole lot more people out there that would approach a X amount dollar remote that they can fiddle with, much like kind of an iPhone or a tablet where they can upgrade it every couple of years for a modest investment, as opposed to a full-scale integrated system that A, they may not be homeowners, B, they may not have multiple houses in the room where they have tons of technology already deployed, C, they may be younger, and again, we're seeing millennials are starting to increase their purchasing power, who have different buying patterns to begin with and different expectations of technology. The freemium model is what drives the app world. It's what drives the rest of the technology world. So the old days of coming by with a $2,500, $5,000, $10,000 integrated control system, that doesn't necessarily fly. When somebody sits there and goes, yeah, I may have 5 or 6 different apps, but it came free. The Savant remote, and the message has always been, because I remember when this was announced, and I do have some friends over at Savant, the message has always been, we're not competing with the CI dealer. These are purchases that wouldn't occur necessarily with the CI dealer to begin with. They're not that same market necessarily. What they are doing, though, is like I was talking about before, is planting the seed when somebody goes, what else is there? Then it opens up, as they state in everything else and in their marketing plan and then their promotion, which is at that point then you can move to the Savant Pro remote. You can work with a custom integration specialist. You can expand it from where your starting point is. But you got to start somewhere. And again, like I was saying, there's that certain hubris, which is kind of the all or nothing approach. Well, if you're not spending 5 figures on this system, you're a nobody. Well, that's insulting.
Well, and let's be honest. At a price point of $500 US, to get you the remote, the smart host, and their blaster, that's right on par with all the other DIY remote systems. But gosh, look at this thing. This thing is gorgeous.
It's
by comparison.
Gorgeous. It feels gorgeous. It works well. It's well done. And there was a lot of time spent on it. They hired an industrial design firm just to build that thing, and it shows. And that's what I mean, is that they are leveraging the technology base that is out there outside of our industry to help kickstart and challenge the other companies that are in our industry. So for me, it's refreshing to see that, because it keeps everybody from getting complacent. The gauntlet's been thrown. So now it becomes a matter of, okay, who else is going to step up, or are they just going to abdicate that market? So, like I said, I'm a sucker for competition. It's like, I love seeing that. I mean, that gets my blood boiling. It's like, all right, it's game on. Here you go. And from a manufacturing standpoint, I mean, I do hope to see Control4, Crestron, Elan, XYZ come out with their statement pieces, because again, like I said, in a vacuum, it's tough to push innovation in a vacuum. For me, in the old days of the control systems, I loved that AMX and Crestron were like two heavyweight fighters, because they pushed each other and they kept pushing and pushing and pushing. I think we need that kind of shakeup again in the industry. So I'm excited for it. So I think it's great. And I'm a fan of the remote. I really am.
Oh yeah, no, it's beautiful. It's definitely something that I know when I first saw it, I was quite excited with it, and it just felt so darn good in your hand. Terry, is this something, because when you compare it to all the other devices, shall we say, that are DIY and in this price point, the fact that this thing is touted to control Apple TV, Sonos, Roku, and a lot of those IP-based systems, that it's designed to control those out of the box. Whereas, let's be honest, some of the other ones don't do that as well, and they require a lot more work to function properly. Is that going to be one of those big pushing points that's really going to allow this to have some serious market penetration?
Oh, microphone.
Do we lose you? I can't hear you.
He's got his mic muted.
There we go. How about now?
There we go.
Can you hear me now?
I know.
Gosh, I'm dating myself now. Wait a minute, I'm dating myself now. Anyway, where was I? Oh, yes. Can
You're
you
awesome.
start
I
over?
love you.
Those things you were talking about, those are the things I like about this concept, because I'm what we in the United States refer to as a cord cutter. And so I have Apple TV and various other devices, and anybody who has an Apple TV and a Mac computer knows how horrible it is to try to use those little stinking remotes, and it sets your iTunes off on your Mac, even though you've allegedly paired your remote with the Apple TV. And so I do have a third-party remote, and I won't mention any names, but it does some of this, but you have to plug it into the computer. You have to you have to go out and find all of your devices. So out of the, especially for what Rich was saying as an introduction to this, somebody gets this out of the box and it works great. That's a great user experience for them, and so they're less likely to be turned off by the integrated home, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, totally. Ted, just to wrap this one up, because this has voice control, which we've talked about on the show back and forth quite a few times about the pluses and minuses of voice control. Is this just another is this just another entry point into that voice control market and pushing the boundaries of voice control?
Well, I think that voice control, they added voice control because that's a very hot buzzword right now. The whole voice control market, the whole voice control technology. I mean, I don't know how the rest of the panel here feels, but I think it has a ways to go to be really useful and really usable. This product, though, I agree with everybody else. I think this product is a brilliant product. From a marketing perspective, an affordable solution, intelligently designed, as you said yourself, Matt, feels good in your hand, looks good, operates well. This is, you know, what the first thing I thought of when I saw it, and I'm going to really date myself now. I don't know how many people around here remember my first Sony, but many years ago, Sony came out with a line of kids technology products. And it wasn't really because they wanted to get into the kid market, but they wanted to seed the market, and they wanted to set the hook for the Sony brand. And that, I believe that's exactly what this is all about. I believe that what they're really doing here is they're delivering a great product at an affordable price that not only opens up a market they're not in right now, but it also sets the hook for when those customers that have bought this and used it and liked it go to upgrade later down the road. Now Savant's on their radar screen. They might not have been otherwise. Now they know the name, they know it's good, it works, it's easy to use, which has always been a hallmark of Savant's products. And they're on the radar screen, and that may be where they start, and that may be where they stay. So it's brilliant in that regard. I think voice control, there's a lot of action in voice control right now. It's a little bit controversial from some people. There were some studies showing that there was a negative attitude about voice control. But I know that, you know, obviously Amazon and Alexa has been very popular, and it's a very compelling vision of the future. You know, maybe a little bit like what was that computer, HAL, and you know, open the bay doors, HAL, and
awesome.
Yeah, but so I think they included.
Half of our audience doesn't even understand that reference anymore. If not more.
I wasn't going to say that, though. I was going to let that go.
You're saying I'm dating myself again. Is that what you're saying, Rich?
I was not going to say any of that. I kept all my comments to myself about my first technology thing. I left it alone.
I think they put. I mean, they want to be out there. This is a gee whiz technology product, and so they had to include voice control, and hopefully it'll work, you know, reasonably well. But the whole product overall, you know, it's voice control and or touch control. So you know, you're still covered no matter what. And so I think it was a good move by Savant. I'm very interested in this product.
Yeah, I gotta say that I think. Ted, you really hit the key with that, because Savant is one of those players that's, you know, maybe not as well known in this space opposed to some of the other players. But if they can get their foot in the door and get those, I hate to use the term, but get the millennials and get the people who are just starting down this road, if they can get them in now and get them to know that brand, when it comes, you know, 5-10 years down the road, and they're in their second house or their third house, and they're ready to invest some serious cash flow into, you know, the products and the systems that we as integrators use, it's going to put them right at the top of their list of stuff they're looking for.
Yeah, it's exactly what I think. I think they're seeding the market, and I think it's a smart move.
Very much so.
And Matt, I think it's not just millennials. Probably, I'm in my early 50s, and I have a lot going on in my life. So for me, I like things simple, and I like things that are easy to use and don't take a lot of setup. So I think that this also is a product that could get into the hands of folks like me and folks who are, they're not Luddites, but they've just never been that into technology because they're afraid of it. It's always been so complicated to them. So I think this could appeal in a lot of different ways.
Very, very true. All right, gentlemen, that's all the time we have for this week. Thanks for being here, guys. Richard, I know you've got to go, so let's hit you real quick. Where can people find you?
You can find me, let's see if I can get it right again, and right there on the Twitter.
There you go.
At rFregosa. For those of you, so for those of you not watching, you can find me on Twitter at rFregosa, RFREGOSA. You can find me at fregosadesign.com. Type in my name in the interwebs, and invariably something pops up. You can also see it at Cedia this year.
You're a tweet again, aren't you?
I have, I have been called in as a late inning replacement for Johnny Sanchez. Has some other duties that precluded her from being a tweep, so I am coming in to fill in her stead. So getting the band back together. Uncle Rich is back, so you'll be seeing me at Cedia, and we should have some really good surprises also with the rest of the AVNation crew at Cedia from the show floor. So look forward to seeing you all there.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for being here, and if you got to run. Terry, again, thanks for being here. It's always good to chat with you. Where can people find you?
I'm glad to be here, Matt. Thanks for having me. You can find me on Twitter at DraperAV, and that obviously is our company's AV Twitter account. I do have my own personal Twitter, but I don't talk very much about the industry. But you can
what if they want
Google
to
me.
follow footy and
I talk about writing and things like that. So that's at TC Cricket. At TC Loves Cricket. Yeah, I talk about cricket.
That's right. Sorry.
Stuff like that. So even more obscure than footy here. So
nice. Very nice. Ted, thank you again for being here. Where can people find you?
Okay, always a pleasure to be with you, Matt. I am on Twitter at Ted Green. I'm on Facebook, Ted Green. You're sensing a sequence here, right?
Sequence, yeah.
And the best place to get me, though, is www.strategy-gee.com. Come visit me there.
Yeah, we definitely get a lot of stories from you, so thank you so much for giving us content. It's great.
Yeah, I appreciate you using it, so that's great. That's
very well written. We like it. For myself, again, thanks to my guest for being here. Thanks for joining us and for watching this episode of ResiWeek. If you want to find me, you can find me at Matt D. Scott on Twitter and pretty much every other social platform. Again, Google me, you'll find me. But more importantly, please stop by AVNation.tv. You'll find this show as well as a wide host of all the other shows and all the other verticals that AVNation covers. So definitely check out AVNation.tv. You can follow us, AVNation TV, on Twitter and pretty much all the other social stuff. That's all the time we have for ResiWeek.